Right here at the Premier Sports launch with Richard Dunne, one of our mighty centre halves from the past. You've been living out in Monaco for the last few years. How's the French and everything coming along?
It's all right, yeah. It was very difficult at the start, but then my kids picked it up in school and started speaking behind me.
They force you.
Yeah, I had to understand what they were on about. So I'm getting there. I'm not too far away.
Yeah, one of the things you've done there as well, you have the FMC Elite Academy, isn't it? Yeah, so I was looking at the website and kind of judging stuff from what you'd said before about the importance of street football, you know, that a lot of modern academies are like factories. And I noticed you kind of put an emphasis on fun in the sun. I believe that's deliberate, I guess.
Yeah, it's important when we hold camps, and I see other camps, and it's all about these drills and different things. And the favourite thing that we do with the kids, we just play old-fashioned World Cup, everyone against each other, and let's go for it. And they love it, and they just want to keep going. And I think there's times and places for drills and sessions and organised football, but there's also time for kids to just relax and enjoy it and play it as it's meant to be, as a fun game. And sometimes that gets lost in people trying to force their kids to be footballers, or coaches trying to force kids to become footballers and thinking, well, I'm a coach, I'm going to make the next Messi or the next Damien Duff or Robbie Keane or whatever it is like that, and just let them develop and let them play.
Yeah, you mentioned Robbie and Damien there. Obviously, they're both on their, I suppose, on that coaching ladder now at different stages of it. Was that something you wanted to kind of follow through at club level, or are you kind of happy enough doing what you're doing in terms of, you know, the kind of summer training camps with children over in Monaco?
So when I started it, I didn't really have an interest in coaching. I wanted to do different things. I wanted to have a break when I retired, and I've done that. And then just through being a dad, I suppose, I ended up coaching my own son, his team, and that's how it is. And I'll continue to coach his team for the next couple of years or however long. And along the way, I'm working with the Irish under-16 team, and I've completed my A licence and stuff like that. So I spoke to Damon and spoke to Robbie about going up and seeing how they're working at their clubs, and I think there's plenty of time for learning and progression before I hopefully one day I might pursue a career in coaching and in a more professional level. And but for the moment I enjoy what I do, and it's, for me, that's more important than, I suppose, than going and playing or coaching again at that top level and being part of all that crazy stuff that comes with it. Is getting the love back and making sure you enjoy it first and foremost.
Yeah, am I right? Monaco invited you in a few years ago just to talk to their players as well. Like, what was that experience like?
Yeah, it was strange. It was one of the one guy that I know. He was part of the education at the academy there as well. So they were doing an English and an English course, French course, and they wanted me to come in and speak, and almost as to speak about my experiences in football, and certainly as an academy player at Everton, and how that was, and speak it in English, so to help the kids understand English, but also help them understand how football has changed over the years. And it is it's strange, because when I speak about my experiences, which is, I think, what made me into a footballer, was having that respect for the first team and having your jobs of cleaning the footballs, cleaning the boots, cleaning the dressing rooms and all that stuff, whereas the generation at Monaco was like, well, that's complete disrespect, what are they doing to you, that shouldn't be allowed, and all that stuff. And it's like, well, to get the respect and to become a professional footballer, it's not easy, you know. You have to get your hands dirty, you have to work hard, and you have to be willing to do things, jobs around the club or whatever it is, to get that place. And now it's expected that it just comes, and that's probably not the right way to do it.
Yeah, the interesting one was Lilian Thuram's son. I think was the only one who kind of probably understood you a little bit, in terms of, like, his father obviously would have gone through around the same time as yourself, and probably would have done the exact same things.
Yeah, he was really clever boy as well, you know. And I think he's actually played for the first team since then, and he was someone who you can tell that has been around football his whole life. Obviously his dad is a World Cup winner and a legend, so the expectation on him is probably high, but because I felt at the time he was really level-headed, he's actually been able to bring that out and become a first-team player, whereas you could tell there was certain people in the room who thought they had a divine right to be footballers, you know, and that's not necessarily the best way to go about it.
Yeah, and having seen all of that now, and obviously I think I remember chatting to you about 3-4 years ago, where I think you'd said you'd nearly moved to Malaga. With Irish players coming through now, and I kind of asked Gary Breen the same question, because obviously Inter Milan was interested in him at one point. Would you be advising people to maybe try and make that move, maybe not necessarily at the very start of your career, but at a point just to test it out, learn something else, obviously learn a new culture, learn a new language, but another way of playing football?
I think so, yeah. I think there's no harm in it being your first club. I think there's so much emphasis in this country about the Premier League and being there, and that's the holy grail and all that stuff. But there's other ways of getting there, you know. And I think I spoke with Graham Barrett last week, who was coaching at Shamrock Rovers, and he wants to bring his kids over to play in France against us, just to give them the experience to open different doors and open their minds to. It doesn't have to be Man United. It can be a different club. It can be a French club. It can be a Belgian club. Wherever you get the opportunity to go and play, take it. You know, there's plenty of Irish players who probably could have made it in different countries, but they were so mindset on being in the Premier League that they never looked outside of it, you know. And I think it's time for us as a country to start develop players with open minds who can go and play not just the English style of football, but also European style of football, and get new experiences and new academy players playing abroad.
Yeah, I suppose the final question, you played with Vincent Kompany very briefly around the time he'd arrived and just before you'd left Man City. Obviously he's just gone now, he's gone to Anderlecht as player coach. It's going to be a bit of a void there at City, I guess, because he's such a big personality. Do you think, will it be enough to cause any kind of negative effect within the dressing room?
I don't think so, no. I think the dressing room ran really well at Man City. You know, they all seem to be a good bunch of players, and anyone who's not is soon shipped out. And I think they have a policy in place that the player who's there the longest is the captain, and that's how they run the ship. And they're progressing really well, and they've got used to it. I think on the pitch over the last few years, where he's missed quite a few games through injury, that they can play games without him, and it's down to the next leader to make sure that the dressing room remains the same and remains hungry. And you look at some clubs and you think, oh, without the captain they'll really struggle, but Man City have such a clear leader in Pep Guardiola that I don't think it matters who's the captain. I think he's the one that pushes them and drives them forward and keeps everyone in line, and having the opportunity to play for them, knowing that you're going to win trophies, you're going to compete at the highest level, is enough to keep people in line.
Yeah, and finally, are you convinced by Harry Maguire? Do you think he's, well, obviously 80 million is quite a lot of money, but do you think he's going to be what Man United, I suppose, expect him to be?
I think so. I think Man United are lacking a centre-back, a dominant centre-half, someone who they can look to and sort of define Manchester United. When you used to look at Ferdinand and Vidic, you knew they were like the backbone of Man United, and I think that's what they need now. I think Harry Maguire has the talent to do it. I think seems to be a very level-headed player and person who will take it in a stride. I don't think by any stretch of the imagination he's the best defender in the world, but I think he's, for what Man United need, I think he's an ideal signing for them.
All right, Richard, thanks a million for your time.
Nice one, thank you.